She stood at the gate of her small but proud home in Charleston, her chitenge wrapper tied firmly around her waist, her eyes sharp despite her 73 years. She had been waiting since morning. The white minibus that pulled up was dusty from the road, and when the door slid open, her granddaughter Mutinta stepped out first. Taller than Nalishebo remembered, thinner too, with a city woman's careful walk and expensive sandals that had no business being on a dirt road. Behind her came a man.
"Grandma!" Mutinta's voice was warm, but her eyes carried something, a flicker, a shadow that Nalishebo filed away quietly, the way old women file things. "My child." Nalishebo pulled her granddaughter into her arms and held on longer than a greeting required. Then she turned to the man. He was handsome the way a knife is handsome. Clean, deliberate, built for a purpose. He wore a pressed white shirt and extended his hand with a smile that showed every tooth.
"Mama Nalishebo, I have heard so much about you. I am Chanda." "Chanda." She repeated his name the way she tested mangoes, pressing gently to find what was underneath. Nalishebo nodded slowly and stepped aside to let them in. In her kitchen, later, while Mutinta helped her stir the nshima and Chanda sat in the sitting room watching football, Nalishebo's daughter Mwanza leaned close and whispered, "What do you think of him, Mama?"
Nalishebo did not look up from the pot. "The chicken that comes to your yard already plucked," she said quietly, "did not pluck itself." That night, when the compound had gone quiet and only the frogs spoke to the dark, Nalishebo lay on her bed and stared at the ceiling. She had watched Chanda all evening, how he laughed too easily, how he touched Mutinta's hand in a way that looked like affection but functioned like ownership, how his eyes, when he thought no one was looking, moved around the room like a man calculating the value of everything he saw. She had lived 73 years. She knew the smell of a wolf wearing a husband's face.
3 months after Chanda moved into the Charleston house, just temporarily, Mama, while the apartment in Woodlands is being finished, the temperature of things began to change. It started with small things, the kind of things that mean nothing standing alone. Mutinta stopped calling her cousin Tandiwe as often. She stopped going to the Friday market with her aunt Shisomo. She began flinching at raised voices, even the harmless ones, even laughter. It was Tandiwe who first brought it to the family. She was 26, restless and loud and fiercely loyal, and she arrived at Nalishebo's door on a Tuesday afternoon with red eyes and a controlled fury that she was barely holding inside her body. "Grandma, I need to tell you something, and I need you not to send me away." Nalishebo set down her Bible. "Sit," and Tandiwe sat. She twisted the bracelet on her wrist, a Neva's habit since childhood, and then she spoke. She had visited Mutinta 2 weeks ago unannounced. Chanda had been at work, or so they thought. She had found Mutinta in the bedroom, long-sleeved in the Lusaka heat, pressing ice wrapped in a cloth to her forearm. When Tandiwe pulled the sleeve back, Mutinta had wept and made her swear silence. There were bruises, not from one incident, from several, layered like the rings of a tree, new and old together. Nalishebo sat very still. The room held its breath. "She loves him," Tandiwe whispered. "She keeps saying he is not always like that it is the stress from work, that he is going to change."
Nalishebo's jaw tightened. Her hands, folded in her lap, did not shake, but only because she would not let them. "Where is my son, Mwelwa?" she asked at last. "He is in Kabwe, Grandma, for work. Call him. Call your uncle Kampamba too. Tell them Mama says come home."
And Tandiwe, do not tell Mutinta we spoke. Not yet. That night, Nalishebo knelt beside her bed the way she had knelt since she was a girl in Mongu, her knees on the cool cement floor, and she prayed with the focused grief of a woman who understood that God was not deaf, only sometimes waiting for the right moment. You put this child in my arms the day she was born, she said quietly. I will not watch her disappear. When Mwewa arrived from Kabwe the next morning, he found his mother already dressed, her bag packed, her face wearing the expression the whole family called the Iron Chitenge, the look that meant Nalishebo Mwari had decided something and the matter was settled. We are going to that house, she said, and Chanda will look me in the eye.
The confrontation did not happen the way Mwelwa had feared, with shouting, with neighbors leaning over fences, with Chanda turning ugly in front of everyone. It happened quietly. The quiet kind is worse. They arrived at the Woodlands apartment, the apartment that had apparently been finished for weeks, at 9 in the morning. Mutinta opened the door in a wrapper, surprised, her eyes going wide and then frightened in a way that broke Nalishebo's heart cleanly in two. Mama, Uncle Mwewa, why didn't you? We are family, Nalishebo said simply. We do not always call ahead. Chanda appeared from the hallway. He was freshly shaved, put together, and his smile arrived exactly on time.
Mama Nalishebo, this is a surprise. Let me put on tea. Sit down, Chanda. He blinked. The smile flickered, just once, like a candle touched by a draft. Then he sat. Mwelwa stood by the door with his arms folded. Uncle Kampamba sat beside Nalishebo on the sofa. Mutinta stood near the kitchen entrance, frozen, her fingers gripping the door frame. Nalishebo did not raise her voice. She never needed to. She told Chanda what she knew, clearly, without theater. She told him about the bruises that Tandiwe had seen, about the sleeves in the heat, about the way her granddaughter had slowly become a smaller and smaller version of herself over 3 months. She told him that in her 73 years, she had seen many men, good and bad, and that a man who needed to use his hands on a woman was not demonstrating strength, but announcing his deepest fear. Chanda's face moved through several countries. He tried charm first, then wounded dignity, then a version of sorrow that was technically convincing but arrived too quickly and smelled like performance. Mama, I love Mutinta. Whatever she told you, she told me nothing. Nalishebo's eyes were steady as stone. That is also something I have noted. A long silence opened in the room. Then Mutinta, still gripping the doorframe, made a sound, not quite a cry, something that lived below crying, and Nalishebo stood, crossed the room, and held her. Mutinta folded into her grandmother's arms the way she had at 4 years old when the world frightened her, and she wept without pretense. Mwelwa spoke to Chanda then, plainly, as one man to another. There were no threats made. Threats were for people with nothing real to say. He spoke about what would happen next, about Mutinta's choice, about the fact that the family was not going anywhere, and that whatever Chanda decided, they would be watching. Chanda left that afternoon with his 2 bags. In the weeks that followed, healing moved the way healing always does, unevenly, stubbornly, with setbacks and silences and days when Mutinta picked up her phone to call him and had to put it down and call Tandiwe instead. But she began eating again. She began wearing short sleeves, and on a slow Saturday, she drove to Charleston and sat in Grandma Nalishibo's yard under the mango tree, her head resting on the old woman's shoulder, the afternoon warm around them. "Why didn't I see it, Grandma?" she asked. Nalishibo was quiet for a moment.
Because he made sure you were looking at his smile, she said. That is what they do. Muntinta exhaled. A long, uneven breath, the kind that carries something out of the body. You knew from the very first day. I am old, Nalishebo said, with the faintest trace of something that was not quite a smile. Old women know the things young women are still learning. The mango tree moved in the breeze. Somewhere down the road, children were playing. The yard was quiet in the good way, the way a yard is quiet when the danger has left it. Nalishebo stroked her granddaughter's hair and did not say another word. She did not need to.